Hey guys, it was good. Triple J Boxing. So Terence Crawford has been stripped of his IBF title, coming in a recent article by ESPN. It is official that he is no longer the undisputed welterweight champion because he don't have the IBF anymore. And they elevated Boots to get it now, Jaron Ennis Boots, which I hate when they do this, guys. They give a guy... You're telling me Boots is now the title holder to the IBF? Like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know how you can become a champion from not fighting. Like, this is ridiculous, and I just don't get it, guys. And the only people that are really gonna like this are Crawford haters. They're gonna say, "Oh, look, he's ducking or look, Crawford's ducking Boots." But that's not the case, because if you actually read into this, guys, into this situation, the reason why Crawford is being stripped because he is supposed to fight. He was supposed to fight Ennis right after the Spence fight. It was his mandatory, since he has the IBF now, which Spence held for quite a while. I think he held it for since 2017 when he beat Kell Brook. And it's funny how it actually mentions in this article by ESPN that since Spence won the belt back in May 2017 against Kell Brook, he's only had one mandatory defense in all that time. And that was a knockout of Carlos Ocampo in 2018. All the others weren't mandatory defenses, which I find that kind of funny how, like, I know mandatories are important sometimes if the contender... It's just funny, though, how boxing works. Because if you ask me, and I'm not hating on Spence here, I'm just saying the double standards here. Like, he only had one mandatory defense out of the 6-year time period that he held the IBF, which, in Spence's credit, he's fighting better guys, because his only mandatory defense was against Ocampo, which Spence fought a lot better guys than Ocampo that weren't mandatory defenses. So I put the opponent above the mandatory, but in some cases where we know that mandatory guy is the guy to beat, and he is one of the best guys in the division, then I like when they go the mandatory route. But it's funny, though, when the mandatory route is like tough guys, they won't fight the mandatories, right? But when I don't know, it's craziness to me. So pretty much what I'm saying is I put more value on the opponents that they're fighting more than the mandatory, because, like I said, I'm not hating on Spence here. I like that he fought like the Danny Garcias, the Sean Porters, like, instead of some of the mandatory guys like Ocampo, right? That, because we like to see unifications better, right? Not only unifications, I think it's more important about the guy you're beating. But anyway, back to my point. It's funny how Spence held the belt from the IBF since May 2017, and he only had one defense, yet Crawford wins the belt, IBF belt, in his first fight, and he gets stripped right away. Like, I just find that very funny. And I know, yes, Spence had the car crashes and the injuries, but still, you shouldn't be able to hold the belt that long hostage, even if it's injuries, guys. Why are they stripping Crawford this quick? If this was another fighter like Mayweather or Canelo, would they strip him this quick? Ask yourself that question. No, they wouldn't. Apparently, they're saying this might happen to Fury and Usyk too, which it could, but I doubt it. I feel like when there's a lot of money and there's a lot of... When you got a guy like a Mayweather or a Canelo, or maybe even a Tyson Fury, they might be able to... They might be above the law, right? They might be able to get away with stuff that other fighters wouldn't be able to, especially a Mayweather and a Canelo. It's funny how when they don't fight their mandatories, it's fine, right? Like, isn't like, how long has Benavidez been Canelo's mandatory? How about when Triple G was Canelo's mandatory after beating Miguel Cotto? Obviously, I think he vacated the belt, so in that case, I guess it was okay, because Canelo did drop the belt, so he didn't have to fight Triple G. But it's just funny how in boxing, sometimes some fighters can avoid mandatories and not get any punishment, yet Crawford's getting a punishment here. And it's funny, guys, because they're trying to push the narrative, I guess, to the casuals that he's ducking Boots or something, which he clearly is not ducking Boots. Crawford will destroy Boots if the fight happens right now. And most of you guys who know boxing, they know it. He's too green. He's too young. And Crawford's he's a different animal. Now, down the line, maybe a couple years from now, yeah, it might be, you might start favoring Boots, depending on, like I said, Boots hasn't even really fought anybody, to be honest. Who is his best opponent? Ask yourself that, guys, then come back to me. Because he hasn't really fought anybody. His best opponent is, I even forget, really. I think his best opponent is, Thomas Delorme, Sergey Lepinets. Like, those are his best guys that he's beaten. The best well-known guys that he's beaten. Like, so he's beaten decent guys. I'm not saying his resume is terrible, but I think we're kind of like jumping the gun here to say he's going to beat a Crawford. Like, does he have the potential? Possibly. But you got to look at it like Crawford's no ordinary guy. Like, now, if you were going to say, Spence versus Boots, I could strongly see Boots beating a Spence just because he seems like he's damaged goods, kind of. And he doesn't have the skills of a Crawford Spence, let's be honest. He relies more on, I think, his athletic ability. And he breaks you down with his work rate. Whereas Crawford's just totally, he can adapt to like water. Like Bruce Lee says, water, you put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friends. That's Crawford. Spence isn't that guy. So, I could make a case that Boots could beat Spence right now, to be honest. But Crawford, no, he's not ready. We'll see how he does against the higher echelon opponents. Like, maybe put him up against better guys like a Danny Garcia or a Keith Thurman. Now, if he shows something like that against a Keith Thurman, a guy of that level, and he beats him convincingly, like, because even if, like, Keith Thurman's a good fighter, and if you can beat Keith Thurman, I think you could definitely give him a good shot against Crawford. But to say, with his resume right now, and how young he is, to say he's going to beat a master in Crawford, one of the best fighters of all time, you could say now, of Crawford. I believe he could compete in any generation, Crawford. Now, we can't say that about Boots yet, obviously. And Spence, I feel like, could compete, but Crawford's just a totally different animal, like I'm saying. But anyway, guys, he's getting stripped not because he is ducking Boots. Apparently, they are stripping him because, like I said, he's supposed to fight Jaron Boots Ennis. Or the winner, okay, pretty much the winner of Spence versus Crawford was supposed to fight Boots. Whoever had the IBF belt. But which is kind of funny because, like I said, I know Spence was injured and I know he had the car crashes. But Boots has had the interim IBF since January 2023. So why didn't Spence fight him then? Why didn't he fight him, what was it, after the Ugas fight, right? Like, because he had, I think, 6 or 7 months, didn't he, to fight, yeah, so he could have fought Boots after the Ugas fight. I don't know. Did he have another car crash? I forget. Or another injury. I kind of forget, guys. Maybe, because I think he had 2 car crashes. But that would be the only excuse there. But like I said, you can't just let that guy hold the belt hostage just because he's injured. Like, you got to hold the standard to everybody, even if it's a good reason, like injury or a car crash. But I'm not sure. Did he get in another car crash after the Ugas fight or injured? I kind of forget, guys. But if not, why didn't he fight Boots after Boots got the belt in January? I know some of you guys would be like, oh, the negotiations with Crawford took that long, right? But I'm just saying, it's just funny how no one thinks Spence was ducking Boots, but now Crawford's ducking Boots. But let me go back to the main point. So, guys, he's not ducking he's not ducking Boots. He's not ducking Jaron Boots Ennis. And the reason why he's not is because there is a rematch clause. Crawford has to fight Spence in a rematch. It was in the contract. And according to the IBF, they do not recognize rematch clauses as an exemption for mandatories. So that means Crawford either way, Crawford's going to lose in this situation. For the Crawford haters, what I mean. Because real boxing fans who know this, they know Crawford don't duck nobody. And he'll beat Spence. I mean, he'll beat Boots too. He'll beat both of them. He'll beat all of them. Right? But the real fans know that he ain't ducking. And the haters, though, either way, Crawford was going to lose in this situation. Because let's just say the rematch clause, let's just say he denied it and he paid I guess you have to pay a fee if you don't give the guy, like say if you don't oblige the rematch, maybe he has to pay like some kind of fee to Spence. So let's just say he went that route. He says, know what? I beat Spence. I'm not going to give him the rematch clause even though it was in the contract. I'm going to pay the fee. I don't know I guess you could do that maybe. I don't know. I assume you could. And I'm just going to fight Boots now. So, okay, then they'd be like, oh, he's fighting Boots. But then the other people, the Spence fans and the Crawford haters, like I said, again, would be like, oh, he's ducking the Spence rematch. He knows that Spence wasn't right in the first fight and that he was dehydrated. He's scared of Spence. So, either way, he was going to lose, guys. But he's taking the rematch route with Spence, which is better. It's for all the belts. It's a bigger fight. It's more money. And it's arguably Spence is still the better guy. Like, Spence is more proven and a better fighter than Boots at this point. So, why would you fight Boots? That's all I'm going to say, guys. So, the rematch with Errol Spence should be in February, they're saying, according to the latest sources. But, like I said, guys, Crawford had no choice. He had to fight Spence again. He has to. It's in the contract. And the IBF doesn't recognize it, so they're stripping him. I just find it double standards in boxing how, like I said, Spence held the belt for 7 years and had one mandatory, and they never stripped him. Like I said, Mayweather, Canelo, I'm sure there's other instances of the cash cow can get away with stuff. Why is Canelo not fighting Benavidez, right? Stuff like that. So, and apparently this could happen with, like I said, the winner of Tyson Fury versus Usyk has to fight Filip Hrgovic. And if they don't, because there's a rematch clause there, if they take the rematch clause, which, of course, there's going to be a rematch, especially if it's competitive, they're going to get stripped of the IBF too. So this is nonsense, guys. Terence Crawford, he'll take Boots to school at this point. He is not ducking. For all you Crawford haters, you're loving this probably because you're going to run with a narrative now that he's ducking. And maybe that's what IBF is doing here. They're trying to create a narrative and trying to build up Jaron Ennis. The boxing politics are trying to build him up as the next guy because Crawford's old. Spence is old at this point and damaged. Keith Thurman's getting up there. There is no star at welterweight. Who's the next star? Really, there's only a couple names you could throw out there, but the number one potential star of the division that everyone talks about is Ennis. And I'm not saying Ennis is a bad fighter, but I'm saying it's funny how boxing politics works, and they're doing this to build him up by giving him a belt. He's the so-called champion now without even fighting. Like, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Anyway, guys, Terence Crawford, he's the best fighter in boxing right now. He's the best fighter in the division, clearly. And he's not ducking nobody. But we'll see what the Crawford haters say after he beats Spence again, which I expect him to pretty easily. And we'll see, maybe he fights Boots right after that fight. That would be good, because I feel like if Crawford, as long as he stays active and he doesn't get too old overnight and he stays around the same performance that he's been doing lately, he should easily handle Boots as well. But if he stays too long and he fights Boots at 40, yeah, maybe it might be a different story. But no one beating Terence Crawford right now, guys. And yeah, I'm sure this doesn't even faze him really, but it might be irritating him a bit that the IBF is doing this, because like I said, the double standards in boxing, they strip one guy, they don't strip the other guy. And one more thing, guys. Terence Crawford is obviously, like I said, pound for pound #1, but he's not a cash cow. And that's what fuels boxing. The politics, the cash cow. Crawford just doesn't sell that pay-per-view buys. He doesn't have that money. He doesn't generate that much money compared to other guys. And that's why they're stripping him, because he don't have power in boxing. He's maybe the best boxer, but the best boxer is not not always the cash cow, right? So yeah, they're trying to build up Jaron Ennis by giving him a belt here, maybe trying to make a narrative. But anyway, guys, boxing politics at it again. This doesn't change my mind on anything. We all know who the real champ is. And thanks for watching, guys. This is Triple J Boxing.